What up, folks? What it do? Welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast from your boy, Mike Goodwin, the bow-tied comedian. Now, I must say, I don't know how many of you are watching this on YouTube or are able to access the video, but we got some new toys in here, man. Got a new camera. I'm digging it. So I do feel like the image is off a little bit. And let's see if I could correct that. Let's see if they have a way for you to preview the image. So one of the things I want to do is get that cup, all that stuff out of the top. Okay. All right. It needs to be a little smaller on my, I'm trying to, because I can't see the stream that I'm on with y'all as I do. So let's get rid of that. And let's do this. Okay, I like that. I guess I wanted to come down a little bit. Nope. Let's go back up. And then let's zoom in. Okay. All right. Let's go back this way. Yep. There we go. A little more zoom. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, man. Technology, baby. So I did a couple little adjustments. But yeah, I got a little setup, got some more lights, got some new equipment. So I'm excited about what's going on. Plus, we're rocking and rolling with the podcast. Thank y'all so much for locking in and tuning in every Wednesday for the podcast, where I start each episode with the best advice ever. And today's best advice ever is track your progress. Track your progress. Now, if you've been knowing me, if you've been listening to this podcast for a number of years, you might know I've been fighting the war between Fluffy Mike and Fit Mike. This has been an ongoing challenge since I've been married. Right. Married 25 years. So it's been a 25-year struggle. I have not ever dealt with having excess weight until I got a wife. Yeah. I was the kind of kid, I grew up, my mom would say stuff like, she was always trying to lose weight. That was my whole childhood. My mom was losing weight, so she would say, like, she wished she could transfer some of her weight onto me, right? I've always been a slender guy, joined the military, did put on a little bit of muscle, very little. I don't know what my body fat percentage was, but in those days, but it wasn't high. Went to college. I still was a pretty fit guy, pretty cut, ripped, as they would say. But boy, I got that wife in 2000, and look here. Like, so the military, there's a weight and height standard in which you need to fall within the parameters, right? And they typically will weigh you before a PT test. And I've never had any, I would hear people talk about having to have a tape test, and folks, I'm not going to say what they called it. There was like if you were obese or overweight, they would have a little program for you. I knew nothing of this. There were people like running, working out on the weekends that I never knew, and I never had any issues with PT. Use my weight until I got that wife. And then I weighed in one day, and they told me I need to get taped. I said, what is that? So they basically tape different parts of your body. I think they tape your belly. They got a measuring tape. So you got to have the inches. You got to be within a particular, so you could be over the weight and the height requirement, but if you got to pass the tape test. And from that moment on, I've been taping. ever since. So kind of in and out, in and up and down. I lose weight, I gain it back. I lose some weight, I gain it, because I did all the things. I've done Weight Watchers, I've done Orange Theory, I've done HIT classes, I've done a variety of activities to manage and maintain a fit physique, right? And I've been doing pretty well. If you look at my what you're not gonna do is not laugh at these jokes, that special is tape. I was cooking. I was pretty fit. Matter of fact, one of the ways I know I was fit then and not now is that cardigan. That there's that recording when I'm wearing that cardigan. You've not seen that cardigan in a long time. That cardigan is not of the it doesn't meet the requirement. I'm a little bit beyond being able to wear that cardigan in a manner that looks appropriate. Like if I wore that cardigan now, it would look like I was like people like to talk about those busted biscuits, like you're coming out those biscuit packages, right? So that cardigan has been put away and very fluffy. And then if I were, so that's 19, right? So 19, but then we got hit with what? COVID. Yeah, and then COVID, I found fluffy. I was fit, man. Yeah, let's just take it to 19. Because I mean, before 19, I'm sure 17, 18, I'm sure I was tracking and getting myself in order. But 19, I was in the house. I was rocking it in Rockland. I was a fit fella. There's a picture on the wall of me in that cardigan, right? And so 19, then what happens? 2020. The world gets put upside down on its head, and so did my fitness, man. When we got locked in, I found myself consuming large amounts of calories, and from one particular area. Not to put Mike Goodwin on blast, but yeah, man, I got in that COVID, I got in that lockdown, and I was very stressed out. And so I was retreating to food and drink, right? So 20, man, we kind of we fluffy. 21, probably fluffy, man. Probably still doing the fluff thing, man. But about 22, I saw some pictures, man. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Hold a minute. I don't like this. So 22, I started seeing some stuff I didn't really like. I started putting that work in, man. So 23, I'm rolling, man. I can remember because I went to the National Speakers Association conference that year. It was in Orlando, if I'm not mistaken. And I was, you check the records, you check the pictures, man. I remember coats and jackets that I was wearing. So that 23, man, I think somewhere around maybe February, March, man. Because if I can pinpoint it, I did a Gateway Men's Conference. Gateway, Texas, has had some challenges of their own, but I did a men's conference for them. Probably 22. Might have even been early 23. Yeah, I think it might have been 23, early 23, because I remember seeing that picture. The guy they were interviewing me after I did my show, and I saw that picture. Yeah, that's 23. Yeah, I saw that picture. I said, okay, enough is enough. That's typically how it's happened for me over the years. I've seen a picture and have been spurred into fat burning action, right? So I saw that picture in 23 and I went to work. Matter of fact, I think I ended up to the Oklahoma football team that year. So I had that picture from the men's conference, and I showed it into my presentation. Like, hey man, because I'm not just talking to y'all about being a better version of yourself. I'm included in this. And this was me 3 months ago, right? So I used that in my presentation. That's 23, man. So I'm getting it together, man. I'm lean. I'm getting lean. And then guess what happened? I lose my dad, man. I lose my dad in 23, October of 23. And man, I just lost I wouldn't even say the drive. I just was very comfort. You know, when you say comfort food, I was leaning into that comfort food. I mean, I can literally remember because my dad was in the hospital. He was in the hospital for a good few weeks, and then they admitted him to inpatient hospice. And I live in Columbia where he was at the hospital, so I would be at the hospital. I mean, I was just there, and then I would leave and I would go get dinner. And there's this Italian spot. I forgot the name of it, pasta, some type of, and it's delicious. It's over there by the hospital that he was in, and I would leave the hospital and go to that Italian pasta spot and get some of that high calorie, high carb food, man. So I put that weight on. I put that weight on the end of 23 into 24. Into 24. Kind of ebbing and flowing. Same kind of thing. Kind of ebb, grieving a little bit. Just can't really be consistent. Doing kind of and I had a lot of bad mindset challenges in Christianity and in the body of Christ. We call them strongholds. I had a lot of mental strongholds around food. So I kind of ebbed and flowed. I lose a little bit, gain a little bit, lose a little bit, gain a little bit, lose a little bit. So I just kept kind of losing and gaining that same 8 pounds. Just kind of doing that same little tango. I go up to like 240, come down to 230. Go up to 238, come down to 228. Kind of doing that little dance for all of 24. And then this year, similarly, went up, went down, went up, went down, went up, went down. But then I think there was a nice little run, especially around when we took Gabrielle back to school. I was on that Comedy Zone run for 4 nights. And just a lot of travel, a lot of eating on the road. And then probably about a month ago, not even a month ago yet, because we ended up we took Gabrielle to school on the 11th. Me and my wife celebrated our anniversary on the 12th. The 13th, we came back, took my son to dinner on the 14th, which is his birthday. And then I think I got on that scale, man, and I was sitting there looking at a 238 heavyweight champion of the world. And I said, enough is enough, man. Enough is enough for a few reasons. I've gotten, in terms of distance, time, my dad, yeah, that's been not that there's a time where you no longer grieve, but that's not a pressing thing. I was kind of running the food to alleviate that stress or whatever. I'm a pretty consistent guy, especially as it relates to my workouts and my meals. Where I'm inconsistent is sleep. I'm very inconsistent with cheating because I eat and drink some things and I think that they don't have calories, especially when I'm on that road, man. Because there's some of these shows, I come back to that because I come back to the room entitled. Like, man, I just had this interesting gig. I had to drive 40 minutes to the spot, perform. When I get back to the hotel, I want something good. Tell me something good. I don't want no salmon and broccoli. I want something with some excitement. I want some food that'll make you feel like, yeah, thank you, right? Because again, one thing I've learned is success is very boring. To be successful, you got to do some very boring things. And because my job requires a high level of stress and uncertainty, I kind of was using food as a reward system, man. So I just kind of was making some poor decisions. And I guess, and again, found myself at that 238, whopping 238, right? And I was on the 14th of last month. I said, okay, enough is enough. I looked at the pictures. Matter of fact, I went to the TV station and I did something for, America's Got Talent is celebrating their 20th year. And so they had me come in to the radio station, the NBC affiliate. I came in and talked to those folks, and I saw myself on that camera, and I kept pulling my jacket and just felt so uncomfortable, right? So I said, okay, we're shutting it down. We're getting it together. So we're about 3 weeks in. And I'm probably sitting at about somewhere between 233, 235. I'm kind of in that little, maybe even, depending on like when I weigh myself, because I weigh myself first thing in the morning, I'm one weight. Then I've been typically doing a walk. I've been walking pretty regularly. I'm walking every day. I'm walking every day for at least 30 minutes, but on the weekends, I'll get an hour in. And so I'll get a walk in and maybe a little workout in the morning. So by the time I get back from the gym, I'm probably at 230. That's the lowest I've seen. But if I go back in the few years that kind of going up and down, one of the things that I was very inconsistent about was tracking my progress. So I would feel like my weight was X, and I didn't know because I wasn't getting on that scale. So I was making some poor decisions, but I never got on the scale to verify or to evaluate where I was. And so I would go stretches of time without getting on that scale, knowing that I had a number, like knowing that there was a number that I thought was too much and there would be a number that I thought was appropriate. And I would not get on that scale. So I didn't know the number. So I'm just the fluffy leading the fluffy, right? I'm just out here. I feel like I didn't eat that much. Hey, you can't judge that by feels. I feel like, that buttons on that jacket, I'm good. So track your progress, people. I said a lot. I said all that to say, consistently track your progress. Now, in terms of weight loss and that type of thing, it's not the best idea to track it every day. That might not be, because you might not see that scale move the way you want it to move. But once a week, you might want to track it. But I get on it not every. I get on it pretty regularly, so I don't let too many days go by. And I made some decisions that, hey man, I'm going to, because here's the other part for me. My brand, my big part of my brand is Bowtie Comedy, wearing particular clothes, showing up dapper, debonair. So the way that I have my suits, many of my suits, my jackets especially, are made to fit me. And if I'm not me, they're not fitting me. They made to fit it. They made to fit Mike, not fluffy Mike, right? And so they're not gonna look the way that I want them to look. So that's a big part of my brand. And in 2026, man, we're gonna do some TV. There's gonna be some specials being recorded. Might be a late night appearance. I might show up on a sitcom. Man, there's no telling where I'm gonna be. I got some goals. I got some aspirations. So I need to track that. I need to track that progress, man. I need to lock in. So I feel like, again, feeling and getting on that scale is two different things. But I do see the difference. I can tell how my body feels when I'm tracking. When I'm there, I read this book, man. And I don't remember what book it was, because it was such a great illustration about lead and lag indicators. So lead indicators are basically things that you would do since I'm talking about losing weight. Lead indicators are things like drinking 8 ounces of water every day, getting 7 hours of sleep, having a gram of protein per your body weight, 1 gram per your weight, whatever. Prioritizing protein, getting rid of and sweets, alcohol, those types of things. Those are lead. So if you're doing those things, at some point, ultimately, you'll get the result that you want. Lag is getting on the scale or being able to put on a particular jacket. So if you're doing the things I said in the lead, if you're making those, daily deposits into the positive momentum, that is an indicator of what will happen. But the lag, it takes a little longer for the scale to show. Like, so for instance, maybe, 3 weeks in, I want the scale to say 230 and the scale saying 235. That doesn't mean that 230 is not coming. It's a lag. It takes a little bit longer. So I got to keep the lead activities going. Because if I keep the lead activities going, I'm ultimately get to where I'm going. But if I'm just on the lag, like scales or quarterly reports, you can report something and 10 minutes later, it could be a whole different answer to what the numbers communicate, right? So I want to make sure that I'm locked in on my lead indicators and not the lag. At some point, the lag needs to show up. And if I don't know if that was Atomic Habits. I don't know what book that was in, but it was a great illustration. It was an excellent illustration. And so I think it's important when I say those times where I stumbled and kind of got off course, I wasn't tracking. I wasn't getting on the scale. I had no clue of how much I was on I was on the honor system. I was like, oh, that weekend wasn't that bad. Nah, get your behind in that bathroom and get on that scale. Track your progress. One of the things I often know to be very effective if you're in a weight loss journey. Sometimes it may be better to not to count, but to check out those inches. So to weigh, to tape like they did in the Army. Tape your thigh, tape your belly, tape your hips. You can be losing inches and not losing weight. So things fit better. You feel lighter, but the scale may say a number that you're not pleased with, but you are positively moving in the direction that you want to move in. I'm the illustration I'm constantly telling myself about is boiling water, right? I forgot the degree that boiling water happens is like 212 degrees or something like that. But like at 200, that water hot, man. It's just not boiling, but it's on its way. At 205, it's hot, but it's on its way. So but if you got off the track at 205, it's not gonna boil, right? You turn the pot off or you take it off the stove. You got to hold on to that boiling point. And and my coach will say, things that are very sobering. Like, you'll say something to him about, hey man, the scale not moving in this particular direction. And he was like, well, I don't know why you think in 3 weeks you're gonna be able to undo 2 years. Like, ooh, don't say that to me. Don't say that. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to get this back in 3 weeks. You can't get this back in 1 quarter, man. You're down 25 points. Some teams could come back in a quarter, but it's gonna probably take you a little longer. This might be a 5-game playoff series versus a 1-game win. So track your progress. I talked to a friend of mine who I talked about on one of the podcasts, and she listened to the podcast and was like, oh, you were talking about me on the podcast. But she asked about On the Road again. Where's On the Road? And I kind of fell off a little bit talking about On the Road because I didn't know if people really enjoyed that part. But I do want to bring back a little bit On the Road again. I haven't been on the road this week. I've been home, resting, hanging out with the fam, chilling. So hopefully I'll be back on the road this weekend. But I did have a story from the road most recently from an event. I'm not a person to try to put people on blast, but I want to illustrate what happens in my life. Well, most recently I had an event. And this has been a long-standing event, and I had a conversation with the person that set the event up. And when I got the information for the event, I was like, it's a ticket event, 90 minutes. Okay, so I'm the type of person, when I get information that doesn't line up, because I'm not going to go up on stage unless I'm doing a special and do 90 minutes. I'm going to reach out to another comedian and say, hey, man, I would love to get somebody else on this show to get some of these minutes. Because I'm going to do an hour. I'm going to do 45 minutes to an hour. For the most part, I may do more than that, but I'm not trying to do more than that. So that's what I do. I reach out to a comedian. I say, hey, man, what you got going on? And so we work it out. I go back to the guy and say, hey, I got a person to open. So then the person that I'm talking to says basically, well, you're the first comedian to have an opener. He's all the people that have been before you and nobody's had an opener. And I don't know what he thought that information was supposed to me, because to me, it was a little unfortunate that that was the case, because there is a comedic ecosystem, and I want to contribute to that ecosystem as much as I want to receive from the ecosystem, meaning that I was always excited when a comic that was further along in their career than I was gave me an opportunity to open for 'em. Like there just never was a time where a comic would say, "Hey man, are you available?" And if I was available, can you come and open? I was always grateful for that opportunity. So why would, when I get in a position to have people open for me, not have people open for me? Like, nah, I'll do all the time so that I could keep all the money. And when he communicated that, hey man, you the first person to have open, I was like, great. Because I want to be more than just the person that comes in and does the gig and doesn't make up, opportunities available for other folks, man. And I really, and I think that even this person, we just have a philosophy, a different philosophy, and maybe I'm different. I'm sure if he had his podcast, he would probably say some different things related to the topic. I'm just like, hey man, I don't care what everybody else is doing. I care about what I'm doing. And if I'm going to come to a place and there's an expectation of 90 minutes, I'm not going to give them an hour and say, man, good night. I'm going to give you 90 minutes. Now, I might not perform 90 minutes, but I know a load of comedians, a bevy, a plethora, a myriad of comedians that I would, number one, work with, and number two, would love probably to work with me. So yeah, and I ended up having this guy, and it was an outstanding event, and he was paid. I paid him, and it it was it was I think it was the thing that needs to constantly be done, and one of the things that's very disheartening for me in comedy is to see people double dipping, to see people playing on both sides of the field. For instance, what I mean by that, let's say you're a headliner comedian, you used to getting a certain fee, and let's just for the sake of illustration, let's say your fee is $800, which is not a lot of fee. $800 is your typical fee, right? But then somebody comes along with $400 and says, hey, can you do the $400 event? You got to say no. You can't say, well, let me look at my calendar. I don't have any $800 events. Let me go do the 400. No. What needs to happen is somebody says, hey, can you do an event? Yes, I charge $800. Oh, our budget is 400. Well, I know 4 or 5 people that would do an outstanding job for you that charge 400. But what I've seen far too many times is comedians being on the 800 side and being on the 400 side, depending on what their calendar look like, depending on their availability. And it's like, that's not integrity, but it also doesn't open up opportunities, man. So what happens is everybody kind of fighting for these same little scraps. You see, fighting for these same gigs where there's so much abundance that is available for you. And I am of the mindset that, man, what God has for me is for me. It's for me, man. And I'm talking about exceedingly abundantly above all that I can ask, not necessarily monetarily, but just in the fullness of the experience, man. I've done them. I've done shows where people have paid me handsomely, and I've done shows where people have nickeled and dined me, and I've always had a better experience in the shows where they paid handsomely. Not only for the money, but for the honor that comes along with that fee. If people gonna pay you X amount of money, they're gonna treat you a particular type of way. Versus If they're giving you some scraps, they're going to treat you as such. Now, what's beautiful is somebody's paying a nominal fee, but they treat you outstanding. That's what happened. That's what should happen, but that didn't happen, man. I got stories. I got stories, man. I had somebody basically. I did this event. I'll never forget this. Never. And these people have asked me to come back and do events, and I will never return. But I did this event, and I think I probably did some kind of adjustment to my amount that I was charging. And these particular folks were having plates. You know, that there were plates, catering, and you give them a number and a certain number of plates, and there's an amount in seats that are associated with the plates. So I'm at this event and I want to sit at the table, before I go up. And they basically tell me you can't sit at the table because those tables, those are paid for unless you want to pay for a plate. And it's like, hey, man, I already gave you a discounted rate. You can't add 1 or 2 plates in there just on some comp type stuff. Maybe you're going to have a speaker and you want him to be fed. We don't want him to have to pay his food out of his fee. But that's the nickel and dime attitude. That's the abundance versus lack, right? And so I was very happy to be able to have another comedian to perform with, because that's always fun. It's always great to not just do shows by yourself. We were, I chop it up with them, so I probably give more value than what I pay. But it's even in that feature role, the role that before the headline, it's not a role that's designated for you to stay as a feature. You want to aspire to become a headliner, but it's going to give you what you need. It's going to get you to where you're going, but you should never set put your stake in the ground at that feature spot. Like, oh, I'm just going to be featuring for these comedians. No, I'm going to be the guy, but I'm going to look out for other people and let them have opportunities too. So shout out to growth. Before I jump off, I do want to give a shout out to young Michael. That's my son. I probably do more highlighting my daughter, or even if I don't highlight her, she doesn't get beat down in my set like my son does. My son, he gets a little beat down in the set, but I want to give him a shout out because my son is a tremendous videographer, video editor. He's always on that iPad. He's editing videos for his sister and his mother for their business, Gabby Bowes. If you see any video that's been produced, for the most part, he's done it. So my son just got a client that wasn't inside of our home. He has his first client. He's gonna edit some video for this the speaker that we know. We were at dinner, we was just talking, and we were talking about how the boy, we were talking about our children. And we talk about cultivating their passions, and there's a natural bent that your children have that they just are interested in particular things. Well, that's how our son is with editing footage and videos and graphics. I mean, this kid, man, just sits at our kitchen table with headsets on like he's Spike Lee. This boy's he's editing videos that nobody's asking for. He's building his YouTube page. He's building his Instagram page. So we're talking about our son. The folks we're having dinner with was like, well, I need somebody to edit my videos. And I was just going to go up to the University of South Carolina and try to find a student, talk to some professors and say, does y'all have a freshman, sophomore? I'm like, hey, man, you can get you a sophomore in high school. So my son's about to get his first paid gig. Welcome to the world of entrepreneurship. Now, my son sold many things before because he used to draw pictures and sell them at Soda City, which we have every Saturday here in Columbia, South Carolina. But I'm excited, and I was at my gym talking to another woman that I knew she was looking for somebody to do social media. I was like, hey, I got a person for you. You might want to check out my son. And my son had told me that he wanted to record some high school football games because his uncle is a coach at a football team in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I'm like, well, we're not driving you to Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's at least 12 football teams right here. So he ended up sending an email to the athletic director at Irmo, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna give you a media pass on Friday. Come and get you some footage." So shout out to young Michael, man. All the talking, all the lectures. I think it's starting to seep in, man. So shout out to the young man. I'm very proud of him. I'm excited for his future. He is gonna go long and far, doing videos and editing videos, and I just can't, it's gonna be incredible. And even over the next few years, I mean, I told him in the car today, I'm like, man, you could be in high school with a side hustle, man. Like you could be making money to purchase your first car or help pay for college or do the things that you want to do. You can put some money away from your skill set because you have a hobby that gives you the ability to generate some revenue, some money, some bread. So shout out to young Michael, man. And shout out to y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast, man. Like, subscribe, follow me on all the social media platforms. I'm at Bowtie Comedy on all the things. I'm out there. And if you can't find me, go to MikeGoodwin.com and connect with me on my website. You can get on my listserv and figure out the dates that we got coming up, man. We got a number of dates that we're already putting in place for 2026. If you know anybody in in Louisville, Kentucky, the Louisville Slugger, if you know anybody from the home of Muhammad Ali, let them know I'll be in Louisville. See, is it Louisville or Louisville? I'll be there September the 30th at the Louisville Comedy Club. So let folks know I'm going to come and I'm bringing these jokey jokes with me. So again, if you have any questions, just email. I think the email address I've given y'all before is bowtiecomedy@gmail.com. If you got any questions, concerns, insights. Also, man, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'll be back next week. Same bat channel, same bat place. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Peace.